Today, I talk with Sage, a sex worker working in a legal and regulated brothel in Las Vegas. She gets candid and raw about the industry, offering a rather unconventional perspective on life as a prostitute. By covering topics like safety and health, protection and soliciting, Sage shares how serving her clients has given her job some meaning and hopes to remove stigmas around the industry and promote a more open conversation and perception towards the industry. All right, Sage, thank you for being here with us on Multispective. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm excited too. Thank you for having me, inviting me on here.
Yeah. So, Sage, I know you've been on a couple of other podcasts before. Am I right in saying that?
I have done one other interview with Matt Cullen, on YouTube.
Okay. How was that?
It was a lot of fun. He was super sweet, and it is a queer YouTube channel, so just shedding light to the LGBT community in brothels and stuff like that. So we kind of brush up on that and like the acceptance and stuff like that in our brothels.
Oh, that's so cool. So this is like kind of focused on one specific angle within your work, is it?
Yeah. That's what he tries to focus on. But when other topics come up, we kind of talked about my husband's passing and stuff like that, and that was like the main focus of my interview.
Mm.
But he tries to like get interviews for people that are in the LGBTQ community.
Wow, that's so interesting. So our listeners here have no idea. Well, probably a little bit from the intro about your story, but we'd definitely love to hear from you. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Stockton, California. Um, I met my husband 6 years ago now, and so he invited me out to live with him in Reno, Nevada. And we kind of, built a life together. I worked as a district manager for a couple of years, and then after he passed away, I just kind of like shut down. So it was a lot to maintain 250 employees at that time, and my friends invited me here to Elko, Nevada, just to kind of like refresh and reset, and that's kind of how I stumbled into sex work. Is just it just happened. It wasn't something I really planned for, but outside of that, I like cooking a lot, and I like painting motorcycles. I just purchased my first motorcycle, so I'm super excited to learn and
That's so
see where
cool.
that takes me.
Yeah. Wow. So sounds like you've had like quite a journey there. So working as district manager, you said you were managing like 250 people. Did you have your husband, like, did you meet your husband at work? Was he a colleague, a coworker? Yeah.
So it's a funny story. It's very super cute. It's like it seems like it would be in a movie or something like that. Um, I sat next to him at a mutual friend's wedding, and I thought he was just so funny and charismatic, and I messaged him on Instagram, and I was like, "Oh, I thought you were really cute," and just kind of
Oh,
grew from there.
yeah. And your relationship with him, would you say like overall was like a really happy, healthy relationship?
Yeah, for the most part, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was very supportive in everything I did, and during the time that we were together, I did do like OnlyFans, and again, super supportive of that, and he gave me tips of like, this is what a gentleman would like to see in a video, and he, did videos with me so I could post it on there. So
Wow, that's so awesome. Yeah, man, love a couple that's just like really open and comfortable. Like, you know that there's got to be a level of like real security there to be like comfortable sharing maybe their wife in certain, areas that I guess typically in like a society would be considered maybe a bit taboo or like, harder to accept. But it's really cool when there is, that part of that can be supportive of like, yeah, this is you. I'm totally gonna embrace it. Like, why not? Right.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I appreciated that the most about him.
Yeah. Do you reckon if he was still around today, he would be supportive of your current work?
Absolutely. I think he would be like if if there was like a afterlife and he's like looking down from heaven, I think he'd be jealous of like the money that I make now and
Mm.
not my work. He'd be like, "Oh man, like I really wish that she's making that kind of money when I was alive and we were
Wow.
together because I spoiled the hell out of him,
Mm.
anything he ever wanted or needed, I
Yeah.
got for him for sure.
Yeah.
So it would have been a lot easier if I was making the money I did back then.
Right. Um, how long ago was it when he passed?
It has been 9 months now.
Wow. Yeah. How are you doing?
Well, I just take things day by day. I try not to think about it and, try to do all the things that he would have wanted, us to do when we were still alive. Like the one place he ever wanted to visit was Japan, and I'm going later this year. So
That's
I'm
amazing.
going to take his ashes with me, and you know,
Yeah.
probably leave some of his ashes there in Japan.
Right. That's amazing. I love that you've like kind of like embraced this, like, we're going to celebrate the life well lived kind of attitude as opposed to like, mourn and grieve of course, that's definitely a part of it as well. But that you've chosen to take this path of like, let's celebrate the things that he always wanted to do. Let's live it out for him. Yeah, that's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, absolutely. I try to do my best, being positive and having that outlook. But again, there's like I feel so guilty being happy and doing all these things without him whenever,
Mhm.
like these are things that we wanted to do together.
Right.
But I know he would want me to live my life to the fullest. So,
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, I'm sure our listeners are really, really curious as to what got you into the field that you're in right now. I know you had an OnlyFans, so that might have been sort of like a start to establishing this curiosity. You said that you were with your friends, and it's sort of like this is where the idea sort of came about. Was it a conversation among your friends, or was it something that you came across that you thought about, or how did it? Yeah.
when I moved here to Elko, one of my buddies, he had a spur of the moment bachelor party. And we came here to the Desert Rose to get some lap dances. This is the only house that I've heard of that allows you to, that you can sit at the bar and have some drinks and, get some lap dances. We have a stripper pole in our bar. So, there you allow we allow that party vibe. So we came here to get some lap dances, and one of the girls, I was like, oh, this is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And she took me to the back, and she's like, I'm not super like sexually attracted to girls, but like you should apply to work here. Like, you know, she told me how much she loved working here. And then we sat at the bar, and we were both drunk, but she helped me fill out the application and helped me pick out what pictures to upload to my application. And the owner called me a couple weeks later, and I started probably a month after that. But I did have a girlfriend who strongly encouraged that this would be a good fit for you know what I'm looking for and what I'm needing. So
Yeah. That's really cool. How did you sort of know that this was something that you sort of wanted to try, or do you feel like it really helped to have like everyone sort of in your surroundings kind of encourage it or be really like open to it? Um, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I had tried a lot of vices after my husband passed away, like of course, drugs and alcohol and you know, but sex was another big one. And, you know, um, having that company of men and, the attention of men all the time, like I thought that would be, you know,
Hmm.
helpful for me. And I was right, and um, yeah, it allows me to have a good work-life balance as well. Like, if I need to take a week off, like as long as I give them enough notice to get another girl, they allow me to do so. So, but if I had friends that weren't supportive or were super conservative and didn't want me doing this, I probably would lean more towards not doing it just because I do care about what my friends think, but they
Hmm.
just mostly cared about my safety and my mental health. So,
Great. And I suppose it was like also one of those situations where you felt like going into this brothel called Desert Rose, I'm correct? Yeah. That the environment is safe. It's giving you this kind of like vibe of like we're safe, we're secure, we're happy. We have self-chosen this kind of role for ourselves. So we are protected by, our bosses as well. So, that must have also really, really helped a lot.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So is prostitution like legal or regulated in the US?
Nevada is the only state in America that has legal brothels or legal sex work. There is workarounds, like there's girls that come in here from California where sex work isn't legal, but escorting is. So you know, we have a girl and she told me, like she does escorting. I'm like, oh, like, tell me about that. Like, aren't you afraid that, like it's a, undercover cop.
Right.
And she gets booked for an escort service, which is like a date. And if sex were to happen, then it were to happen, but it's never like implied or,
Right.
expected, even though I think it's kind of like, that's kind of like the agreed upon thing when you're spending, a bunch of
Right.
money per hour for time.
Right. So, but at the end of the day, they can choose, and if they choose to go ahead with it, then they can charge more. Is that how it works, or is it generally within?
Just for her base rate, which is a couple $100. But if they were to be like, I want to have sex, can I pay you more to have sex? Like that's prostitution. So
Mm,
they can't like legally do that.
right. Okay. Got it. So what you said that it's only legal in Nevada. So what are some sort of laws around in terms of to protect you guys, in terms of medical, in terms of yeah, just in general?
Yeah. So we get a blood test monthly, and that checks for HIV. Um, I don't recall what else, but anything that can be transferred through blood or sex, obviously. And then weekly, we do a vaginal swab, and that checks for chlamydia and gonorrhea. Every 5 years, we get checked for, I think, hepatitis B. But we pay for that ourselves. And then whenever we do our taxes at the end of the year, that is, tax deductible. So.
Okay. Um, however, when you're actually in the act, I guess, in terms of protection, using condoms, using these kind of things, I guess, again, asking, is that a requirement? Is that per person, like depending on the choice of the person, or is that something that is a rule in the company?
Gotcha. So it is a law that we have to use protection, anything orifice to orifice. So blowjobs, cunnilingus, we would have to wear a barrier, so they would wear condoms for that. Or I have like this very thin latex panty that I would have to wear if they did want to go down on me. We use condoms, of course, for any sex. I We are not legally allowed to take anal, but if a gentleman were to want to be pegged, I wear a condom on my
Right,
dildo.
right, right.
And of course, there's like cleaning things, but between that, we also do like an alcohol swab on the gentleman prior to engaging with them. So we do like a visual check of the penis, make sure that there's no you know
Yeah.
warts or
Mm.
herpes or anything like that. And then the alcohol, like it would burn them if there was like any open wounds.
Ah,
um so we do that prior to booking with them.
right. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. And it's so nice to know that that's being done over there because I mean, there are like places where, there's not enough of that being done around. And, it's just, it gets really, really messy and spreads really fast as well. So it's really nice to know that they have these sort of procedures in place to protect you, to protect the client as well, in a sense as well, like everyone that's sort of involved in it, right? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why legal I mean sex work should be legalized everywhere. Like we have these guidelines and these laws that we have to follow that keep us and the client safe, whereas like it's kind of a free for all if it's illegal. Like there's no regulations, no one's checking up on these things of how we can keep everyone safe.
Right. What about in terms of like other safety? So in terms of, I don't know, you might have drunk, aggressive or violent clients. What's kind of in place for that?
So the main thing is that we cannot take clients unless like a bartender's here. So if a client wanted to do like a special booking outside of our regular business hours, like a bartender or manager has to be here just to make sure that we're safe. The bartender keeps a timer. So if a gentleman were to book us for 25 minutes, um, the bartender will have the timer go off, and then she'll come, knock on our door, and make sure that we give like a verbal like, oh, thank you. um if she doesn't hear that, then we keep our door unlocked so she could come in here. um Same thing for when we're doing negotiations, like if she doesn't hear from us or we don't come out of the room for 5 minutes, she's going to come check on us, make sure that we
Mm,
haven't been you know
right.
taken advantage of in any way or anything like that. We also have a panic button in all of our rooms that is accessible, from our bed. So if we feel violated or like we are in danger, we just hit that button and it alerts the bartender to come to our room immediately if there is an emergency. And they just, again, doors unlocked, they bust in and they're able to put an end to that and protect us in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Has there ever been any instance where something like this has happened though in the past?
In my 6 months of working here, we've only had one instance, and yeah, I mean, she hit the panic button, and then myself and the bartender saw, and I kicked the gentleman out of her room, and found out what happened, and it's up to the working girl if she would like to press charges, just because she was assaulted, but we personally, I don't like to do anything to draw any attention to the brothels, just because we are in a conservative state. The sex work is still pretty taboo. So any negative attention that we bring to the brothels, like, in terms of like our safety or anything like that, like it could be like the drop in the bucket that gets us, that makes brothels illegal.
Right, exactly. So this is sort of like that one sort of conundrum that often you're all in, because it's like you want your protection, you want to be able to have the police, to be able to call the police in a situation like this, but at the same time you're kind of aware of like those, you're like always at that border, that brink of it potentially affecting everyone's work.
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak for all working girls, or if that's how it is in all houses, but that's just me personally. Like I like to fly under the radar as much as possible. So,
Right.
but again, we whenever that happened, we have a camera. So excuse me, let me back up. When a gentleman comes in here, you can't just walk in like it's a bar or anything like that. Our front door is always locked. So there's a motion sensor, and it lets the bartender know that there's someone in here. So all the girls, we go to our rooms. So it's only the bartender and then the gentleman. Check ID, of course, and then there's a camera where they're waiting to come inside. So we took that picture of that gentleman who assaulted the working girl, and we sent it to all the brothels like in the surrounding area. And of course, like he is like 86 from here, and we're just like, hey, this guy is, a safety issue. Like he abused one of the girls, so do not allow him in there.
Wow. So there is definitely some sort of like camaraderie between all the companies or the brothels where they communicate with each other, and they have like blacklists for people that are interesting. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And then same for working girls too. If like a working girl were to do something crazy, like, it's communicated throughout all the brothels, like, hey, this girl did this, like, just so in case she tries to apply for your house.
Right. Interesting. That's really cool. So can you tell me a little bit about like what are your general working hours? Do you get to decide on your own working hours, or do you have like, shifts or something? How does that work?
So my brothel, we are 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. A lot of houses, they are 24 hours. So some of the largest houses, they'll have shifts. So it starts at 9 a.m. and then they get off at 9 p.m. Then they could go to sleep. And then the next set of girls, they'll do 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. But here, 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. Unless something like this happens, like, and I'm just like, I'm going to start at 8, like,
Yeah.
just don't expect me on the floor. We are private contractors. So, we make our own rules, but if you were to take advantage of like taking a bunch of days off, or always starting late or ending your shift early, that will determine whether or not you're allowed to come back.
Right.
I'm a resident at my house, so what that means is I'm always here. I work 7 days a week unless I want a couple days off, or I request a week off. We have a girl here who lives in Ohio, and she's here for a month now, but usually she'll come for 2 weeks, go home for a month, come back for 2 weeks. So it all depends on the girl and what they have going on in their personal life. But I live here in Elko, so it's not a huge deal for me to live here at the brothel.
Right, right. That's really cool. So they offer this option if you would like to live there, or have some kind of flexibility in your contract as well. That's really cool.
Yeah, it depends on your relation, like how you perform and your relationship with the house. So, again, if you you always have issues with clients, like you're not giving the house a good name, They're not going to allow you to come back, or they're not going to, allow you to tour. So there's 7 rooms at my house. Myself and one other girl were residents. And that's just because we have like a good reputation with the house, the managers, and with the clients.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. And how does the like generally the pay structure work?
So we do have like a room minimum. Um, and okay, I can't say legally, but uh, most of us do charge above that though. Outside of that, we make our own prices, and that's like per hour. We are open to negotiations. The house takes half of anything that we do in the back of house.
Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. They take half of whatever we charge
Right.
back here. And then for our house, we do have like a $50 a week maintenance fee. Most of the houses, though, it's like $50 a day. So we're super spoiled here. They,
Right. Yeah. And then for you that living there, would you be paying extra or is it coming out of that half that's already going to the company?
just the $50, $50 a
Okay.
week.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. What about in terms of medical expenses? Because I know that insurance usually is really hard to get there and it's really expensive for medical.
Yeah, it's not offered just because we're private contractors, we're our own like business owner. So we just pay for our own insurance, or
Mm.
I'm would like to marry one of my friends so I can have their insurance, just because this they have really good health insurance here in this mining town.
Right.
Otherwise, I don't think a lot of the girls have health insurance.
Mm. I definitely feel like, if there's any industry that could really benefit from this, it would be this. And if you're sort of like technically signed on a full-time contract, it could be really, really like useful to have something like that. But, yeah, it is expensive, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So, so in that case, when you've got like a typical shift of like 4 to 4, um, approximately how many clients would you be able to take on in that time?
Um, it, it's so hit or miss, like earlier this week, the last 3 days, Sunday is how we start our week. Sunday I had 3 clients. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday I had 0 clients a day, and then last night I had 4 clients, and they were all back to back within like maybe 4 or 5 hour window. Um,
Mm.
it changes every day. You know, Venus, and one of the other working girls, she had the same amount of clients yesterday, but they were longer parties. Um,
Oh,
so hers were
interesting.
like an hour, whereas mine were like 15 minutes each.
Oh, that's really, really interesting. And I
Yeah, and I
suppose
think
there would be quite a lot of like prep before and after as well.
oh yeah, I have like an air purifier that runs all day, every day in my room. I sanitize my bed. We do put a sheet down, for each client on top of our bed, just so like lubricants, any bodily fluids, like it doesn't get
Mm.
on our bed. But we do like have like a sanitizer spray that goes on our bed, after each client. Shower before and after every client. Um, you know,
Yeah.
just a lot
Yeah.
of cleanliness.
Right. So I suppose you would sort of time it in such a way that there's going to be at least a 1 to 2 hour gap between your clients.
Um, Prep isn't that long. I think last night, like my turnaround was like a half hour in between each one.
Right. How do you, I mean, it must be so exhausting. So how do you like snap back into like, okay, fresh, I want to look like I'm really feeling this and enjoying this, even though like maybe deep down inside, I'm just so exhausted right now.
Yeah. For me, and I don't want to again, I don't want to speak for like the industry or any other girls. It's a lot of vodka. Like I have to go into it, 2 shots deep, or
Right.
and I do really do enjoy it, but you're a little bit more loose and
Mm,
excitable whenever you have a couple of drinks in you. So
right.
that's how I, get excited and, get ready.
Yeah. Would you say like, oh, what about some of your like speaking to some of the other girls? What do they say? Do they also agree that this usually is their way to like getting into it?
It makes it easier for a lot of the girls that I work with. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Um, Okay, so can you just tell me a little bit about like what kind of services you offer? You mentioned that anal is not an option for you personally. Are you open to it, and what are the things?
Well, anal is actually illegal for us.
Right.
Like we wouldn't
Ah,
be able to accept it. For me, I'm very fetish friendly, so I'm open to almost anything. I think the one thing that off the top of my head that I can think of is completely off the table for me is age play. So I will not pretend to be underage. Like I will not role play to be you know, under 18. Like I think I'm
hmm,
not gonna encourage pedophilia, like,
yeah,
or make someone think that, I appreciate that they're, not acting on it outside of here, and this is a safe place to like do that, but I will not, you know,
right.
feed into that. Otherwise, I've done pegging and, degradation and, um, like some BDSM type stuff.
Right.
Um, so
Yeah, interesting. Is there any one particular thing that you personally enjoy the most?
I like being dominant. So,
Yeah.
really taking control and yeah, I think
Mm,
one I'm a super nice person. So one thing I also don't like or feel a little uncomfortable right now, and I haven't really, felt super comfortable in is a degradation piece. Like I did enjoy it, but it's really hard for me. Like I don't want to tell people that, they're lesser than I feel that they actually are. But
mm. I wonder, like the most of the clients that you get come in, are they generally people, or do you have a lot of clients that come and say, you know, yes, I am in a relationship or I've been in a relationship, but I have this fetish that I'm too nervous about or embarrassed about sharing with my partner or with people, and so I just want to explore it here. Like I just need to live that out. Or do you have more people that just have had struggle with relationships and sex in general?
um I think I do have a lot of people, or like the people that have, explored with me their, fetish and stuff like that, or, trying to figure out like what they're into. It's just because, I think it's hard for you to meet someone at the bar and be like, hey, would you mind peeing on me or something like that? And,
Right.
it's a very, extreme fetish. And I haven't had anyone be like, I can't bring this to my partner. But it's always been like, it's hard for me to find someone that I'm comfortable with that, I want to ask them to do this with.
Right.
Here
Right.
it's, we don't yuck anyone's yum, so
Yeah.
they feel safe here, of course.
Yeah. I think that's so, so important as well. But there's some, I've heard of like some relationships as well who've had like real struggles because their partner, they trust each other, they love each other, they've been together for a while. But, when it comes to like that one little aspect, it's like, I would really, really like to try it. And I imagine for someone who's single, who knows that's exactly what they want in a relationship, in their sex life, not be able to sort of like feel comfortable to share that. So having the sort of place for that can be so like helpful for those individuals, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I see a lot too is I have had a lot of couples too, and I think it's hard for a first of all a man to bring that up. So it's always been the woman that is like, oh, this is something that we would like to try. But it's hard for a woman or anyone to meet someone at a bar and be like, this is what we want to do, or it
Mm,
possibly grow like one partner want to explore the third outside of the relationship, or and they feel safe here just because this is where it happens, and then this is only like it can't
right,
progress after this, so they feel
right.
safe doing that here too.
Yeah, that's awesome. In what other ways have you felt like you've helped people, or yeah, just yeah, provided like some kind of like a positive sort of impact to individuals?
I think my first like and the most impressionable experience that I think I could speak to is a gentleman who came here, and he lived his life in a wheelchair, and he's never had a girlfriend. He's never, had sex or anything like that. And he, wanted to, of course, explore that. And he's like, I want you to teach me like what girls like how to read body language, and, like just give me the real girlfriend experience. So we spent a total of 8 hours together, and I made him dinner and we watched a movie. And, the other half was just like, okay, this is how you read a body, a woman's body language. This is what girls like. And, you can tell that they don't like this, but because of, how they, kind of brush you off and stuff like that. So, he appreciated so much that when he got back home to Canada, he sent me a thank you card, and, was super appreciative. And he had the courage to, ask a girl out from work, just because I gave him that confidence of like, you can do it. You're like,
Yeah.
you won't know unless you try,
Yeah. Definitely. That's so amazing to know. And I think that that's just like one of those like I feel like one of those like stigmas that people seem to not like grasp, like the whole industry in its own, how many individuals it has saved, how many relationships it has salvaged, how many relationships it's had actually made possible as well. Because not everyone is a natural when it comes to this. For some people, they struggle in these areas. And, being able to feel like I can do it without any judgment. I can show you all of my weird sides and you can correct them for me. It can be so
Yeah.
useful. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing that, I've been cheated on and I don't like it at all. I would hate if my partner, went to a brothel and did what they did.
Right.
Um, but one thing that, one of the girls has opened my eyes to is if like, a gentleman is gonna do it if they want to. It's better if they come in here where it's, where they know that they're safe, like we are tested and we do use protection, as opposed to like just meeting a girl at the bar and it could be
Right.
unprotected. You don't know where they come from.
Right.
So I'm
Yeah.
a little on the fence on that one, but I see the positive and the negative of it. Just, personal experience. I don't want to be on the receiving end of that.
Right. Exactly. And I definitely still also think that like to be cheated on emotionally with someone versus, having it just a physical thing, two completely different things. Like well, I don't know if I would be able to, I don't know where I'd stand on this, but I would still prefer someone sort of just have a one-off sort of um, situation run off as opposed to, it being emotional. And then you are really running the risk of that relationship really coming to an end, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. Um, okay, so what about in terms of finding men, or I don't know if you would call it soliciting or what the word is for this, but how do you sort of market yourself? And do you use OnlyFans right now to market, or yeah?
So it's illegal for us to solicit. So if I were to go out to a bar, I can't, just be like, oh, I work at the Desert Rose, like come visit me, and I can't pass out cards. Um, Pretty much like the gentleman has to hear word of mouth about a brothel in Elko, Nevada, and he's heard that they have pretty ladies there, and they come and check it out, and they come to us. We can't like go out there and advertise at all. Um, I do post every once in a while on my Instagram, but that's more so, I try to keep my Instagram like, family friendly.
Right.
Um, um, we do have a brothel Instagram where we just post the ladies, but it's not like, we can't be like, oh, like get 3 free beers if you do a booking or anything like that.
Ah,
So we can't do any outreach. Some girls, they do have OnlyFans. I don't post on it anymore. But that's how a lot of girls like find their clients. I I don't have the energy to like do a lot of outreach, so I just allow
right.
the clients to come here, and they have a positive experience, and they return to come back to see me or another girl.
Yeah. So would you say like most of your clients are like repeat clients, your loyal customers?
I have a couple loyal clients. It's really hard just because I it's hard for me to pretend like I have a connection with gentlemen. And if I do get my phone number out, and I really don't mind if they text me, but when they start asking me to like go out and have dinner with them, like first of all, it's illegal for me to go out with any client.
Right.
um but they get their feelings hurt because I can't have that connection with someone, and I can't pretend to have that connection with someone. Like I can't pretend like, oh, I can't wait to see you, and stuff like
Mm,
that. So I think that sometimes I do put a sour taste in gentleman's mouth. But as
right.
long as it stays like, you come in here, we have a party, we go out to the bar and have a couple of drinks, and then you come back and whenever you're ready. As long as it stays within those guidelines, those are my returning clients. It's never like people that want to build a further relationship.
Right. What happens if you're like out on the street or, out with your friends on a day off and you bump into a client? Do you pretend like you don't know them more just to protect their personal um
Yeah, that's only happened to me once, just because I don't go out too often. But I did run into a client, and we just made eye contact and just kept keeping on. Like you
right.
don't know if their situation has changed. Again, I give my phone number out, and there are clients that I genuinely like, but I never text first, just because you don't know if they have a girlfriend, and if
Mm,
they had gotten into a relationship, and you know you don't know if if they want to continue that relationship with you. So
right, that's true. And also sometimes like maybe they might not have mentioned that they're in a relationship, but actually on the outside they are. And it's just
exactly. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I feel like that's really like respectable to do because it can be really hard. Like, we've had an encounter that's quite deep and so like how do you just sort of like nope, didn't exist.
Yeah.
Um,
A lot of when I tell a client, like, oh, like in a flirty, playful way, like, oh, you kind of made me jealous when you went to go visit, that other girl. Like, I saw you. And they're like, oh my gosh, I did. And you know, I had a gentleman who, he lost his best friend. I lost my husband, and we would kind of bonded over that. And we would talk about it after a booking, or, I would console him. And then, he booked with another girl, and I was like, we
yeah,
had
what?
totally had that connection. And, like, I
Hmm.
thought he'd be loyal to me, but, um, being here a lot longer now, like that was probably my month one, being here a lot longer. It's the Desert Rose's client. It's not Sage's
Right,
client.
right.
So I've definitely like broken out of that, but I still feel a little like, dang, we had so much fun that one time. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was actually just about to ask, like, have you ever, or, either you or any of the girls or a client actually had like an emotional sort of thing? And what are the sort of like rules around that? Once you start to feel emotionally sort of like, I'm actually kind of liking this person on a personal level. Like, I want to actually date this person. What are the rules on that?
so from what I understand, we're not allowed to date, especially clients. Um, we can't, even if I saw a client several times, I am not allowed to like meet him outside of here, just because that could be considered, out calls, and like, doing sex work outside of a brothel, which in my county is illegal. In other counties, it is legal. Um, um, but I do have a girl, I'm comfortable talking about, because she did talk about it in an interview. She met her boyfriend here. He was a client, and he came to see her regularly, and they would text and play video games together, and it just kind of developed from there. And I think they've been dating for a year or two, I believe.
Right.
It does happen. We're human beings, like, you know.
Yeah.
I haven't had that connection with someone, and again, like it's hard for me to want to, with my recent husband's passing, and
Right.
just because like I try to separate the two. I do have get like little crushes on people, but um I try not to let that grow,
Right.
very much.
So if you were to actually get into an official relationship, like your friend, would she then have to leave the work, the job, to pursue this relationship, or is she allowed to still have this job, side by side?
um Honestly, I don't want to speak on it because I'm not too sure. I know that she just recently retired, or she's taking a break, she's stepping away. But she continued working as a working girl.
Right.
If
Hmm.
I don't know if I would be allowed to,
Yeah,
you know,
not a
to
problem.
continue seeing someone outside of here, if I met them here in the house. Like, if
Right.
me having previous friendships here in Elko, and then I just happened to start dating one of my friends, I don't think that would be an issue. But
Mhm.
we're allowed to. We have a girl who's married. She lives in Ohio, so again, I
Oh.
don't know the exact laws, but my understanding is I'm not allowed to date outside of here.
Oh, okay, okay. So, like, what were to happen then? Like, if I mean, I suppose this doesn't apply directly to you right now because you're in a very different stage, I guess, in your dating life. But if you were sort of like out and open to dating and wanting to like go on the dating apps and just outside of work, like get into that, like find yourself a partner for life, um, how would how do you think that would impact, or your job would impact, just dating in general?
Like, personally, how would I continue doing this?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I think it depends on if the partner is okay with this. I'm a hopeless romantic. Like, let's just say this gentleman that I really liked and we had a connection with, um, he was like, I don't really want you doing this, and like, let me take care of you, and it's
Yeah.
someone that I saw a future with. I would probably step away. Like, I'm not super attached to doing this for a lifetime. Like, this is
Right.
this is just a pit stop for me, and there's
Yeah.
other things that I want to do. So it'd be a way to exit this and you can move on to my next step. So,
Right.
um, but if he was comfortable with it and he was super encouraging and it's something that I still wanted to do, and I felt like I can emotionally handle being in a serious relationship and continue to like see my clients, like, I would continue to do it.
That's
So it's a
awesome.
situational thing.
Yeah, definitely. No, I get that. Now, what about in terms of like um I don't know whether the word is trafficking. Have you ever come across any situations where women are being forced into this kind of work? I don't know, with this brothel, with any of the other brothels around the neighborhood, is that something that happens? Um, yeah.
So in my county, when we get our sheriff's card, so we have to get like a license from the sheriff's card saying that they know that we're doing sex work. And so before we're allowed to get that, we have to sit down with a detective and he asks us questions to, make sure that we're not being trafficked. We're not, we're not being forced to do this. Like, do you have control of your own bank accounts? And all of your IDs and everything like that. Are you being forced to do this? Do you feel safe doing this? This is like your own decision. And if you like, I think if you were to pick up that we are forced to do it, or he gives us that opportunity to say like, yes, someone's forcing us to do this, then they would take the actions to protect us from that. Um, but I do know of a girl who was working at this house by her own decision, but how she got into sex work is because she was forced into it. I don't know the exact details, but I think she was like kidnapped and forced into sex trafficking, and then it just like became her life, and she broke off from that man who forced her to do it, and she just kept doing it on her own. And I think that's more of an empowerment thing. Like, a man
Mm,
can't force me to do anything. I'm gonna do this on my own, and I'm gonna do it on my own terms. And you know
yeah. Yeah, I think in a way it's good that they've got like sort of the procedures in place as well for this. But also recognizing that sometimes when a person is like really living in this place of fear, or they've had like, threats thrown at them, that, even when time comes to sit with that detective to have that conversation, out of fear may just be like, no, no, it's perfectly my choice. And, I'm here because I want to, sort of situation. Um, do they have any sort of like counselors or someone that sort of sits with you on the regular to be able to actually really see that this is genuinely the person's personal interest, or like, there is some kind of, because yeah, I just wonder whether like just that one conversation with a detective would be enough
it would be enough.
protection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like a detective is trained enough to read like
Mm,
a person's cues if they're lying or if there is that nervousness.
right.
Um, I mean, I would assume so.
Yeah.
Um, but knowing, I can't speak for everyone, but knowing like, you know, the owner of this house and the owner of two of the other houses on this block, like,
Mm,
um, they are well trained enough to recognize if they are being trafficked, and
right.
but there's no counselor or anything like that. There's no like continual checkups to see if we're still doing it by our own free will.
Right. Right. So what is their typical method of like finding girls? Like yours was an interesting one because you walked in and there was a conversation between you and one of the girls, and that's sort of how you got recruited into this. But what about in general? Do they have like a method or a way of reaching out to girls for recruitment?
So we can't like do any job ads, or we can't seek out girls or anything like that. Like, if a girl is working at another house, we can't ask them to come over here. We can't reach out at all, just because again that's like soliciting, and they just have to apply. They have to be friends of girls that already work here, or just Google like brothels, and all of the websites have an apply now link.
Right.
um, so
And
so
what's on
there's
the
no outreach out.
what would you say is sort of like, I don't know if they have like an official job description, but like what would you say sort of like maybe verbally just spoken to you guys, like these are the things that we require to be able to get hired? Is there sort of like certain skills or certain, yeah, specific requirements?
Just be over the age of 21. I think like there there is a lot of times where girls will say that they want to do this, and they have like a whole conversation with the owners, and then they kind of like chicken out at the last minute. Of course there is like a screening of, is this something that you're okay with? I think mine was pretty easy just because the pictures that I sent in were pretty spicy. I think that it was like
Right.
spicier than the norms. From what I've heard though, like their like pre-screening is a little bit more vigorous than what I had to endure. So, but no, there's not like, are you good at, suck this banana and let me make sure that, you're good at it or anything like that, um, it is a very, there's someone out there for everyone. So it's not like you have to look like Kim Kardashian to work here or anything like that. Like,
Right.
I don't fit like a beauty standard, and I do decently. And, like we all have our own looks. There is like someone's going to find each of us attractive. So I think
Yeah.
as long as, you have a good personality, you're like, mentally willing to do this and you're stable enough to do this, like, and you would fit, this house. I
Right.
think
Exactly.
would be my owner's requirements. That's what I think his requirements would be.
Yeah, that's so awesome. No, I like that because it's like, for example, to be a model, you have to have a certain kind of look, certain standard. And you would think that with something like this, it is about that to an extent of physical attraction, right? But that there isn't that kind of rule. It's like you can be physically attractive to different people, right? And, so
Yeah.
that's not a standard that they go by, which is really, really awesome. Do they have like trainings and stuff to like help you guys if there are certain areas? Yeah.
So a lot of houses they have like a big sister, and like the big sister will be like, these are the laws, and this is how you properly put on a condom. Um, just because this is a smaller house, we do have like a training packet on like these are the laws, like this is what's expected of you, like this is how many drinks you're allowed to have per shift, like type thing. And then I think like we just naturally take the new girl under our wing. Like I will just like they the new girl will naturally like gravitate to one of the senior girls, and we would take them to the store, and these are the kind of condoms I recommend you get. This is kind of lube that will work good with condoms and toys. Like this is what's allowed and not allowed. And
Yeah.
there's no like formal training at my house. It's kind of just like, let me take you under my wing and help you through this.
Right. That's so interesting. And what happens then if like a client comes out from an experience saying like the service was not good enough or I didn't like that experience? What's the kind of like how does the brothel sort of like handle a situation like that? Crisis
Um,
situation.
I've never had anyone complain. I think the one time that we've ever had someone and not satisfied, first of all, we don't offer refunds. Like as soon as the party starts, like unless we do the penis check and they have like an open wound or a wart or something like that, then they would get a refund, of course, because the party hasn't really started.
Mhm.
Um, but the what my manager did to reconcile that and make sure that he came back was, I'll do a party with you for half off. And then, I think she did end up giving him half a refund, just because of the situation. It wasn't like, she didn't make me finish or something like that. It really was like she did take advantage of how drunk he was. Um,
Oh.
like she overcharged him, and yeah, so it wasn't good on the girl's part, but it was reconciled. He has come back multiple times, and I have partied with him since. So
Oh,
he's
that's
returning
awesome.
and happy again, just as long as he doesn't end up partying with that girl again.
Right. And it's nice to know like that, by offering this, it's kind of like you've turned him around, but he's also sort of like started to trust the process, like the whole thing again, right? As opposed to like, okay, understanding it was this one person that messed up my experience, but it doesn't mean that it's, that way with
The whole
also.
house, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's cool. No, this is so interesting because I'm like, I'm really, it's making a lot of sense to me, like seeing how operationally it works and how, there is I love that you were talking about how, there are internal procedures where, they share among the brothels, um, the potentially dangerous clients or the not so great employees as well to work with and stuff. So it's like, it reminds me because I used to work in a hotel and we used to have these sort of things as well, like blacklisting guests that were really, really troublesome. And we would rotate that among the hotels as well to make sure that, everyone is aware of these protocols. And they do that with restaurants, they do that in a lot of other industries too. So it's like, they've really picked up on like these kind of things to ensure that everyone is being safe. And I really like that they've got proper procedures in terms of ensuring that there is safety in terms of the recruitment as well. When we're not going to accept, well, necessarily people that have been gone through any kind of like forced situation. That, to me, I think for me, I've always been really sensitive about that. Any kind of human trafficking situation, I'm always like, I do not condone that kind of
Absolutely
thing.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So do you think that, I mean, you did mention that you're not too particularly attached to this job if you found someone, but say if you chose to, is there a part of you that would be open to like doing this for the rest of your life? Or do you think it's really just a stopgap for you?
I think it has an expiration date.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm only in my prime for so long, and I can only do this for so long.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest prejudices that you wish that people could, people need to like change in terms of this industry?
Um, I think that people think that, um, we're we're dirty. Like, at least in this house, we are, as far as I know, very strict on like the cleanliness, and making sure we wear condoms, and doing our penis checks and stuff like that. So we're gonna be cleaner than a girl who or person that would go to the bar and just have unprotected sex every weekend or something like that. We get checked every week. You know, I had a client last night, and he's like, "Can I like? Do you have any diseases?" I'm like, "I get checked every week." Like, he's like, "Are you sure?" Like, I'm 100% sure. And he like double checked and then asked to perform cunnilingus on me. And I had a gentleman last night as well, and he asked multiple times if I had condoms, and he was like, the first thing he asked as soon as we got to the room was like, "Where's your condoms?" And they just assume that
Mm.
we're just these filthy creatures. And another thing that kind of hurts my feelings is that people think that we're like heartless. And again, I do get a little jealous, I do get little crushes on people, and I do care about my clients to an extent. Like, we're not robots or anything like that. We're not objects. So
Right.
those are the two things that I wish people, thought differently about us,
Right.
or
Yeah.
that we're like dadless or fatherless and we have like issues like that.
Right. Yeah, I would imagine like a lot of people sort of like assuming certain things about it, and just being really quick to make their judgments before like, actually like just sit down and have an open conversation with a person to like really understand what it's kind of like all about. I think that it's unfortunate because like in some places in the world, because it's so unregulated in a lot of places, there isn't enough like there to protect the worker, right? Or there isn't enough like for medical checks or these kind of things. And so it kind of creates this reputation for the industry. But again, not understanding that it doesn't apply everywhere.
Yeah, especially when it's regulated. Like, if it's legal and regulated, like, it's gonna be a lot safer. I have girls that have done independent work, and they've gotten robbed, or they've gotten sexually taken advantage of, or like multiple gentlemen that she didn't agree to took advantage of her. And that would not allow, that would not happen in a legal brothel. Like, this is as safe as it gets. So if it's like legal everywhere, we can make sure that all these working people are safe.
Right. So what are some like sort of messages you would like to get across to our listeners listening today? This can be, individuals maybe unsatisfied in their sex life or actually considering something like this for men, or it could even be like women, to sort of be more like supportive towards other women. Like, what are some messages that you would like our listeners to take away today?
Um, I would like them to know that, again, legalizing it is mean safety. This is a place also where, everyone is welcome. I had, a girl only party. I partied with just a girl by herself, just because she wanted to explore her body and didn't know how to go about it, or explore her sexuality and didn't know how to go about it. Like, we are fetish friendly, and this is a safe space, like not only in terms of like, you are safe to explore yourself here, you are safe like to have safe sex here, you're not going to get an STI or anything like that, and you're like, we are safe as well. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, love that.
And also, again, we're human beings. Like, there's so many times that I hear gentlemen like, oh my God, you are so beautiful, like, what are you doing in a place like this? Like, it's not, we're intelligent people. Like, there's a girl here who's a teacher, and like, again, I used to oversee the operations of 12 locations. Like, we choose to be here. It's not we're forced to do this, or it's not something beneath us. Like, this is what we do, and we want to do it, and we enjoy doing it.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I definitely think that people need to like, and I hope that we get to a point at some point in the world where, sex is not so like taboo, and that, people sell themselves for their job, for their work, and that's not considered so like, crazy or out there. Like, we sell our souls and back, our mental health, our physical state as well for the work that we do. So how's this, any different? It's just a regular job, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And we're fulfilling, people's needs, whether, like, I have gentlemen that come in and they just want someone to talk to, and like, a gentleman will spend an hour with me, or pay for an hour with me just so I can talk to them and they can rub my back. Like, it's not just about sex. Like, we're offering comfort and companionship to these people.
Yeah, I love that. Sage, thank you so much for being here with me today. I really, really appreciate it. I feel like I learned so much from this field.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on.
If you enjoyed the episode and would like to help support the show, please follow and subscribe. You can rate and review your feedback on any of our platforms listed in the description. I'd like to recognize our guests who are vulnerable and open to share their life experiences with us. Thank you for showing us we're human. Also, a thank you to our team who worked so hard behind the scenes to make it happen.
Chris Trzynski, Stefan Menzel.
The show would be nothing without you. I'm Jenica, host and writer of the show, and you're listening to Multispective.